all he does is play basketball. In the world, he's this big.
So all he had to do was just run 3 guys at him, and every time he tried to attack the basket, knock him on his butt, and make him go to the free throw line and wear him down. So all that whining they did, why shake their hand? They were just whiners. They won the series. Give them credit. We got old. They got past us, but okay, move on.
Before the 1991 season, Michael Jordan had endured years of punishment at the hands of the Detroit Pistons. Every season ended the same way. Bruises, heartbreak, and Bill Laimbeer enforcing the now famous defense built to stop Jordan. Laimbeer built his reputation on intimidation and rough play. If Jordan drove the lane, Laimbeer made sure he paid for it. But in Game 4 of the 1991 Eastern Conference Finals, Chicago wasn't just competing with Detroit anymore. They were dominating them. Jordan had absorbed every foul, every cheap shot, every brutal lesson the Pistons threw his way. And now, with the sweep in sight, he unleashed all of it back on the very man who tried to break him. Laimbeer's job was to destroy Jordan, yet on that day, it was Jordan who destroyed Laimbeer. He attacked the paint fearlessly, finishing through contact, and made Detroit's enforcer look helpless. The Bad Boys dynasty collapsed in front of their home crowd, and Laimbeer could do nothing but watch as Jordan rose above them all. This wasn't just a victory, it was a coronation for his airness. The day Michael Jordan buried the Pistons' reign and left Bill Laimbeer's career done for. To understand what made Game 4 in 1991 so significant, you first have to understand who the Pistons were and who Bill Laimbeer was. The Detroit Pistons of the late 1980s weren't just another team. They were a culture, a mentality, an identity built on toughness and intimidation. The name Bad Boys wasn't an accident. They wore it proudly, and no one embodied it more than Laimbeer.
I never really ever liked Laimbeer in any social situation.
No.
Yeah.
And it's because he was a dirty player.
Right.
He had to do what he had to do, I understand that. But you take like Ricky Mahorn, he'd hit you and all that, but he'd hit you, you know you're going to get hit.
Yeah.
He didn't try to maim you.
Right.
He'll try to hurt you.
Right.
And, he was one of them guys, you shoot a jumper, he'd try to slide his foot underneath your ankle so you twist your ankle. And that's why Parrish
Did he really used to do that?
If you watch any of our old games, Parrish was always twisting his ankle against the Pistons.
Laimbeer was never the most athletic player on the court. He didn't soar through the air. He didn't break defenders down with flashy handles. What he did bring was brute force, a willingness to play the villain, and a talent for getting under opponents' skin. If you drove to the basket, he made sure you remembered it. Hard fouls, elbows, shoves, whatever it took. Laimbeer was there to enforce the message.
Bill Laimbeer was about the team and winning. It took me until I came to my second Saturn return, that means 60, and it made me realize that Bill Laimbeer was the person who carved and chiseled steel against steel and was like, you have all this talent, stop wasting it.
That's what he told you?
Yeah, he said, hey, why do you miss foul shots? I said, what? He said, they're free and you can shoot. Put the ball in the basket. Every basket is worth $100,000 or $10,000. Mm-hmm. Man, I went from 68 to 79 to 80 because he would, and he didn't try to be my friend. He was the vet he was supposed to be. I didn't like a lot of things he did, but, the proof is in the pudding.
And when it came to Michael Jordan, that message was simple. You're not getting through us. Laimbeer was the anchor of a defense designed to wear Jordan down, body after body, foul after foul. For a few years, it worked. The Pistons knocked the Bulls out of the playoffs 3 straight times. Every time, Laimbeer's presence loomed large. A reminder that skill alone wouldn't beat Detroit.
How are they doing it? They must have some trick. Oh, it's the Jordan rules. They've got this secret Jordan rules.
The Jordan rules? Is that something you guys made up?
On the switch, Jordan. Guarded by Laimbeer. No easy layup.
Jordan rule? No, I don't know what that is.
It was like the Da Vinci Code, the formula to Coca-Cola, and the Jordan rules.
You're not going to give your game plan away on television, man.
But stopping Jordan wasn't just about brute strength. The Pistons had an entire playbook dedicated to him, a defensive scheme so ruthless it became legendary. They called it the Jordan Rules, and Laimbeer wasn't just part of it, he was one of the main players.
This is what the Jordan rules were. On the wings, we're going to push him to the elbow, and we're not going to let him drive to the baseline. Number two, when he's on top, we're going to influence him to his left. When he got the ball in the low post, we're going to trap him from the top. Well, that's the Jordan rules, and it was that simple.
What happens when he does make it baseline?
That's when Laimbeer and Mahorn would go up and knock him down to the ground.
The Pistons didn't just play Michael Jordan, they built a manual for stopping him. It was called the Jordan Rules, and it was as physical as it was psychological. On paper, it sounded simple. Force Jordan left, trapped him hard on the wings, and when he drove inside, made him pay with contact. But in practice, it was war. Bill Laimbeer was the face of that war. He didn't care if it meant 6 fouls or a bloody nose. His job was to send Jordan crashing to the floor. The Pistons believed that if they made every possession a fight, Jordan's brilliance would eventually collapse under the weight of bruises and frustration.
As soon as he steps in the paint, hit him.
Chuck Daly said, this is a Jordan rule. Every time you go to the basket, put him on the ground. When he comes to the basket, he ain't gonna dunk. We're gonna hit you, and you're gonna be on the ground.
Jordan is still there.
We tried to physically hurt Michael.
Jordan had no place to go. Clobbered.
For the Pistons, it wasn't dirty basketball. It was a defensive masterclass. They knew Jordan was too skilled, too athletic to be stopped by conventional defense. So they invented unconventional defense. And Laimbeer, with his size and willingness to be the villain, was the perfect soldier for it.
They were called Jordan rules, but they're defensive rules. They were about defense. And at that time, you wasn't going to give away your game plan or your formulas of how you're defending and stopping someone. So, yeah, they called them Jordan rules.
But here's the thing about the Jordan rules. They created the very monster they feared. Every shove, every foul, every playoff heartbreak pushed Jordan to evolve. He added muscle, sharpened his mind, and transformed his game so the rules no longer applied. By 1991, the playbook that once slowed him was outdated. The same physicality that had slowed him down only fueled his determination. And standing in his way, once again, was Bill Laimbeer, ready to enforce the rules, but about to realize they no longer worked. However, the late 1980s were a painful education for Michael Jordan. Time after time, he soared into the playoffs with MVP seasons, highlight reels, and the aura of a superstar, only to be slammed back to earth by the Pistons. 3 straight years, Detroit ended his season. Every loss stung, every bruise lingered, and every foul from Laimbeer and company reinforced the same message: not yet.
Stifling Detroit Piston defense holds the Chicago Bulls to 28 of 90, 31%. But Michael Jordan had 31, and he's with Pat O'Brien.
Right. Heard Michael Jordan here in the midst of the celebration. What are you saying to the other players, Mike?
All you can do is wish them good luck. I mean, we fought hard. They were the better team. We went to a 7-game series. What more can we ask for? We want to be where they are, but we still got to win our turn. We're still trying to improve our team. They were the better team, and they played better today.
But Jordan wasn't wired to accept it. Instead of folding, he transformed. He hit the weight room, adding muscle to absorb the physicality. He worked on his post game, making it harder for defenders to force him off his spots. He sharpened his decision-making, trusting teammates instead of forcing everything himself. By 1991, the difference was undeniable. Jordan wasn't just an elite scorer anymore. He was the ultimate competitor, equal parts skill, strength, and leadership. The Bulls had matured with him. Scottie Pippen was coming into his own. Horace Grant gave them muscle inside. And Phil Jackson's triangle offense gave Jordan the framework to trust the system. Tough, still physical, and still mean. But for the first time, Jordan wasn't playing their game. He was imposing his own. And as the 1991 Eastern Conference Finals unfolded, it became clear. The Bulls weren't the team being bullied anymore. Game 4 in Detroit would be the exclamation point. The moment Jordan showed Laimbeer and the Bad Boys that their reign of intimidation was over. May 27th, 1991, the Palace of Auburn Hills. Game 4 of the Eastern Conference Finals wasn't about survival. It was about inevitability. From the opening tip, it was clear the Bulls weren't just trying to win. They were there to bury the Pistons once and for all. Chicago came out hot, hitting shots, moving the ball, and smothering Detroit on defense. Every possession felt like the Bulls were in complete command.
Johnson also in the lineup. The Bulls lead by 6 as we get started in the second quarter. Jordan from deep. Michael Jordan.
And at the center of it all was Michael Jordan. He was forcing the issue. He was dictating it. Jumpers from mid-range, fadeaways over defenders, drives that split the lane. Jordan scored from anywhere he wanted on the floor. Detroit threw bodies at him, but it didn't matter. When they crowded him on the perimeter, he rose up and hit tough shots in their faces. When they tried to pack the paint, he slipped through and drew fouls, walking calmly to the line.
Out of 5, that from downtown, he has 7. And Jordan fouled by Thomas.
Very aggressive drive by Jordan, but also a very aggressive drive defensively. And I don't know why they would complain on that call. 2 guys grabbed him on the arm. And Michael deserves to go to the line on this one. A lot of times I don't agree with the official with Michael Jordan.
Minute and a half gone by.
Took the Pistons' best shot in that first quarter.
Bill Laimbeer was supposed to be the last line of defense, but he looked powerless. Time after time, the Bulls attacked the rim, absorbed contact, and still finished. And when the whistle blew, it only added to Detroit's frustration. The harder they hit him, the sharper he became.
And Purdue up front. Nice play. And Laimbeer taking a shot at Paxson, who did not like it. John Paxson went back at Bill Laimbeer. He did not like the shot given by Laimbeer. Certainly unnecessary.
Well, Paxson also was the player that was...
By halftime, the Pistons weren't just trailing on the scoreboard. They were unraveling in spirit. Their physicality had no effect. Their schemes had no answers. And their enforcer was being targeted possession after possession. The Bulls, on the other hand, looked free, confident, in total control. This wasn't just Chicago stealing a win in Detroit. It was Michael Jordan putting the Pistons dynasty on trial and making it clear the verdict was already decided.
He'll score if he has to, but he would rather feed the ball off.
And Pippen able to feed it off to Jordan.
Turnabout is fair play, and their defense right now is doing it. The Bulls' energy.
For years, Bill Laimbeer had been the face of the Pistons' toughness. He thrived on making opponents uncomfortable, on throwing his weight around and dictating the tone of the game. But on this day, in front of the Detroit faithful, he looked like a shadow of the enforcer he once was.
Like you've had some personal experience in that area.
I've had personal experiences with all of them.
Well, apparently he has now called a double technical on Laimbeer and Paxson. The personal foul was charged to Isaiah Thomas.
From the start, the Pistons were on edge. Jordan attacked the basket without fear, getting shots off from anywhere he wanted, and Detroit's defenders had no answers. Every drive into the lane drew contact. Every jumper seemed effortless, and the whistles piled up. The Pistons responded the only way they knew how, by going harder, playing more physical, and trying to rattle him with force. But instead of intimidating, it only exposed their frustration.
That was called on Laimbeer, and you'll see the combination of Pippen goes to the drive. It's Rodman from behind and Laimbeer from the side.
Meanwhile, Jordan was in complete command. With Laimbeer sidelined, Detroit lost its edge, and Jordan exploited every crack in the defense. Each whistle against Detroit felt heavier than the last, a reminder that their old tactics no longer worked. And the worst part, Jordan made it look effortless.
Here is Jordan. Isaiah trying to get back, but Michael for 2 more for his total of 16.
The real humiliation wasn't just in Jordan's scoring, it was in how powerless Laimbeer looked. Every foul he committed chipped away at the Pistons' aura of toughness. Every trip Jordan took to the line silenced the crowd that once thrived on Detroit's physical dominance. Laimbeer wasn't dictating the game anymore. He was reacting, frustrated, and reduced to sitting and watching as the torch was being passed. By the fourth quarter, the humiliation was complete. The Palace crowd, once fueled by Laimbeer's hard fouls and Detroit's swagger, sat stunned. They weren't watching the bad boys bully their way to another win. They were watching Jordan flip the script, attacking without fear, dictating every possession and forcing Laimbeer into irrelevance. It wasn't just a game anymore, it was symbolic. Laimbeer's struggles told the story. Intimidation had failed. The Jordan rules were broken, and the Pistons' empire was crumbling in real time.
A technical foul has just been called. And that is on Rodman. That is his first technical. Earlier, Laimbeer was hit, as was Paxson, Chuck Daly, and Brendan Suhr, all hit with tees.
In the closing moments of Game 4, history wasn't just written on the scoreboard. It was etched into the legacy of the Detroit Pistons. With the Bulls finally sweeping their longtime tormentors, the spotlight should have been on Chicago's ascension. But instead, Bill Laimbeer and the Pistons shifted the story with a gesture that would follow them forever: the infamous walkout. With 17 seconds still left on the clock, Laimbeer urged his teammates to head toward the tunnel. Isaiah Thomas, Joe Dumars, Mark Aguirre, and others followed. They walked past Michael Jordan and the Bulls without so much as a handshake, their faces stoic, their backs turned. For Laimbeer, it was a final show of defiance. But for everyone else watching, it was something different: the ultimate act of bad sportsmanship.
I think that Magic Johnson really got him fired up about it and really did the job. Well, I think the crowd is cheering here for the Bulls right now, and the Pistons as they leave the court.
I don't think they're cheering for the Bulls, but I think the greeting is for the Pistons as they are headed off as time runs down. Pistons wasting no time in getting out of here. Now a timeout was called. They left the bench, although there's 7 and 9/10 seconds remaining. The Pistons just left. That's a three-pointer. With 4 and 9/10 seconds remaining.
What stung most wasn't just the disrespect to Jordan and the Bulls. It was what it revealed about the Pistons' character at that moment. Rather than acknowledging defeat to a rival who had earned it, they chose bitterness. That decision turned into the lasting memory of their era. Decades later, the Bad Boys are remembered not just for their titles or their physical play, but for that one walkout that painted them as sore losers, unwilling to face the end.
So what happened is, Bill Laimbeer leans over and says, let's hand them the let's hand them the torch like it was handed to us. 1988, Adrian Dantley's on the foul line in the Silverdome, and all of a sudden, all the Celtics start walking through us as the guys are on the foul line. The Celtics are leaving the court. Larry Bird, Parrish, Isaiah standing there, and we're just watching these guys walk off while AD is taking a foul shot. And out of the blue, Kevin McHale looks back at Isaiah and says, bring the trophy back to the East, and gives him a 5 and walks through.
Meanwhile, Jordan didn't need to say much. His performance had done the talking, and the Pistons' silent retreat only magnified his triumph. As he stood tall, the narrative shifted permanently. The Bulls were the new kings, and the Pistons' refusal to show grace in defeat ensured their fall would be remembered with a shadow of shame. The walkout didn't just end a game, it scarred the Pistons' legacy forever. But not everyone saw it the same way. Isaiah Thomas, the Pistons' floor general, later tried to explain the decision, offering his side of the story.
So, when we walked off, and Laimbeer said, "I'm not shaking their hands," and this is how we rode. We rode as a team. We rode as a unit. It's one for all for one. And Laimbeer was like, "This is what we're doing, so you fall in line." And that's what I didn't. None of us knew that the camera would be on you, and this was supposed to be a passing of the torch. Shannon, that is some BS. Ain't never been no torch pass and glorious moment and all that. All that narrative around that was just total made up BS to make one team or one player look bad and another one look good.
The walkout wasn't just a bad look in the final moment. It was the beginning of the end for the Bad Boys. After 3 straight finals appearances and back-to-back championships, the Pistons dynasty unraveled almost overnight. That Game 4 sweep wasn't just a loss. It was a statement that the Bulls had taken full control of the East, and Detroit was never getting it back.
Whined and cried for a year and a half about how bad we were for the game. But more importantly, they said we're bad people. We weren't bad people. We were just basketball players winning. And that kind of stuck with me because they didn't know who we were or what we were about as individuals in our family life. So all that whining they did, why shake their hand? They were just whiners. They won the series. Give them credit. We got old. They got past us, but okay, move on.
Do you regret now not shaking their hand? Do you stand by that?
No. Why would I regret now today? I don't care what the media says about me. I never did. If I did, I'd be a basket case, especially back then. So, I was about winning basketball games and winning championships and did whatever I had to do to get the most out of my ability and our team. And we did. At the end of the day, we're called world champions.
Bill Laimbeer, who had once thrived as the Pistons' enforcer, was visibly slowed down. His physical edge no longer enough to change games. Isaiah Thomas, battling mounting injuries, couldn't carry the offense the way he once had. Even Joe Dumars, still a steady presence, couldn't make up for the cracks forming in the foundation. The ferocity that once defined Detroit now looked desperate. Fouls that once intimidated opponents seemed ineffective against Jordan's composure and the Bulls' poise. By the following season, the Pistons were no longer contenders. Their window had slammed shut. The Jordan rules that once frustrated Chicago were powerless, and the rest of the league began catching on too. Detroit's fall was swift, and it coincided directly with Chicago's rise. What made it worse was that the Pistons' final act, that infamous walkout, overshadowed their years of dominance. Instead of being celebrated as a gritty champion that pushed Jordan to greatness, they were remembered as a team that couldn't handle defeat. The sweep didn't just eliminate them from the playoffs, it eliminated them from relevance. In that sense, the collapse of the Pistons wasn't just about basketball, it was about legacy. They had built their reputation on toughness and pride, but in the end, it was their refusal to show respect that defined their downfall. And a year later, after the series sweep, Laimbeer still had some words to say to Michael.
Who is he? I mean, all he does is play basketball. In the world, he's this big. I mean, he may be up there because he has publicists and media and pumping him up, but as a individual, down-to-earth, heart person, he has. I mean, who is he? Who cares about him?
It's a guy with an opinion. Everybody's got their opinion. You got an opinion, I got an opinion, Bill Laimbeer's got an opinion, and it's going to be totally different at certain times. So it doesn't bother me to see other people give their opinions about certain things. If you're going to ask me my opinion, I'm going to give it to you. But it doesn't bother me as a person in terms of what I have to do in the basketball court. I'm going to go out and I'm going to play. And I'm aware of what his opinions are, but it's not going to affect the way I live.
For Michael Jordan, this wasn't just another playoff series. It was the turning point. For years, the Pistons had been his wall, the one team that could bruise him, frustrate him, and deny him a shot at the finals. But on that May afternoon in 1991, the wall finally crumbled, and standing above the rubble was Jordan, crowned as the unquestioned king of the East. What made this moment so powerful wasn't just the numbers, though Jordan's 29 points and complete control of the floor said plenty. It was the symbolism. He had been tested by the most physical, punishing defense in basketball. He had endured the Jordan rules, the elbows, the hard fouls, and the constant mental warfare. And now, he had not only survived it, he had conquered it. The sweep wasn't just about advancing to the finals, it was about validation. Jordan no longer had to prove he could withstand the bruises or outduel the champions. He had done it empathetically, taking the very team that once mocked his frustrations and sending them packing. The Pistons' reign was over, and everyone watching knew it. In that moment, the NBA shifted. The torch wasn't passed politely, it was ripped away. The bad boys faded, and Jordan's Bulls began a run that would redefine basketball dominance. The sweep of the Pistons in 1991 wasn't just another playoff victory. It was the final chapter of an era and the prologue to one of the greatest dynasties in sports history. For Michael Jordan, it was the moment he proved he could rise above the toughest, most punishing defense the league had ever seen. For the Pistons, it was the moment their legacy took a hit that still lingers decades later. The Bad Boys had built their reputation on toughness, but their refusal to show grace in defeat left a permanent scar. Meanwhile, Jordan didn't just beat them, he humbled them, physically, mentally, and historically. From that day forward, the league belonged to him. The walkout became a stain on Detroit's name, but Jordan's dominance became the story that mattered most: the birth of the Bulls dynasty and the rise of the greatest player the game has ever seen.